Hi there, it's Sandy, your sister and your friend. Welcome to tonight's video. The recent assassination of Charlie Kirk seems to have had some more significant repercussions than maybe we expected it to. It seems to have driven us apart in even further into groups than we were before here in the United States. Some people love Charlie Kirk because he invited people of different beliefs to have public conversations, and other people hated Charlie Kirk because of the beliefs that he held. Some similar division and factions seem to be going on in Israel and the war in between Gaza and Israel. Again, one side seems to think that the Palestinians have a right to have their own state, and the other group thinks that Israel has a right to keep their property that they think was given to them by God. We were actually have been conditioned to believe certain things by our country, our government, our religion, our family, and actually you might even say by so-called demonic forces that condition us, even hypnotize us into believing that if some people think differently from us, that they don't even deserve to live. Now, these demonic thoughts, which are really products of our ego, which is a made-up thought system, these thoughts, though, can take root in our mind also if we have experienced trauma in our lives. Our minds, what they will do, will continually replay the idea that was planted into us as children or into some earlier time of our life that we are unworthy. And we may get desperate enough that we ultimately decide to harm ourselves or someone else because we don't see another way out. But when we begin to wake up, we do know that there is a way out that God has provided for us. And I think that the ones of us who are waking up, our purpose here is to help other people wake up and remember the truth of who they really are. Once we remember, it is a remembering, it's there in all of us. We just need to remember the truth that we are God's eternal children. We will know that each one of us carries a spark of the divine within us. If I thought that God was separate from me, I would feel like I had a right to be angry and fearful and depressed, because if God's not with me, how am I going to do this life by myself? But in reality, it's impossible for us to actually exist and to be separate from our Creator, God, who created us. There's a verse in the Bible that says, "In Him we live and move and have our being." So the fact that we exist is the proof that we are in God and God is in us. Now, I'm sharing this with you as eternal truth, but I don't want you to believe me. Belief always comes from outside, but what I'm asking you to do is to spend time to discover your inner knowing. And an inner knowing obviously is coming from something from inside you that's already there. And that happens, we can experience this inner knowing when we stop and we look inside ourselves. Because that's when God's Spirit, which is already in every one of us, will give us a peace that passes a mental understanding that we just get from when we try to think in our own minds. And we might be feeling afraid or anxious, but in that moment of stillness, we will hear God's voice because God always shows up for us. Now, we may feel God's presence for just a millisecond before anxious thoughts and fearful thoughts come running back into our minds. But that millisecond is proof that God is in us and has never left us. And as we start making a commitment to setting aside time to practice being in stillness, wanting God there in our lives, we will see that we will hear from God again and again and again, and it will be such a beautiful, blissful experience. Now, the truth that I have found in stillness is an assurance that God does love me and loves every other part of his creation, or every human soul. Now, being in God's presence is a very courageous thing to do. So I'm asking you tonight to stand up and do something, because you are brave and you can do this. And when we set aside time to be still and ask God to help us, the Spirit of God will help us to let go of anything that we have attached to that no longer serves us. Now, the Spirit never does this and forces itself on us, but it's always there to help us when we just get still. And we'll find that feelings will come up during these times of stillness. And these feelings are rooted in thoughts that are in our minds. And what the Spirit does, or has done for me and does for a lot of people that I've talked to and have heard from, is it helps us relax, observe whatever is coming up, and release the feelings that come up with us, come up in that time of silence. And oftentimes it will also show us the thoughts that are behind those feelings. I don't always get to know that, but sometimes I do. But we will find that oftentimes it's that we've been told lies about our unworthiness or the unworthiness of other people, and we believe them. So what I'm talking about here is a purification process that transforms our minds as we let go of all unloving thoughts. Now, I had a real dramatic experience of this myself a little while back, probably a couple of months ago now, several months ago. And what happened is that I had injured my back when I fell during a vertigo episode. And after a couple of weeks, it was still, I could barely walk, and it was still hurting me quite a bit. And my daughter came over, and she said to me, "Mom, I'm really sorry that this happened to you." And when she said that, I started crying. I realized that I hadn't actually said those words or had that sense of that feeling for myself. And instead, I had tried to push through the pain that I was in and just say, I can get through this. The pain isn't real. I'm just going to get through this. But I actually was afraid that I was going to be incapacitated like this for the rest of my life. And because this had gone on so long, and back pain is not something I was actually even familiar with. So what I decided to do was to sit and have all that fear, for me to face that fear that I had in stillness. I just set aside time during my meditation. And when I did, I was really surprised that what came up was that I was feeling unworthy. I didn't even know that this sense of unworthiness was there. It's something that I had stuffed down, presumably when I was a child, because as I sat there and let this feeling come up, I felt like my little girl Sandy showed up there in this time of meditation, and I invited her into my lap and held her and told her how much I loved her and that she is worthy. And as I held her and she teared up, I felt tears running down my cheek, because of course this was me as a little girl. And so I felt this great sense of relief that I had uncovered something, or something had uncovered itself and had come up, and I was just willing to look at it. I was just there observing, and I got to interact with something that my inner child had been holding on to. So the next day, when I sat during meditation, I felt some excitement that maybe there was something else that was going to come up related to this. And so as I sat there, my little girl Sandy showed up again. Now, I didn't actually have any expectations and didn't know what else might be uncovered, but I was interested and excited if something else came up. Well, I felt that she invited our young mother into this circle here with, now there were 3 of us here, but I was actually there as an observer, just as not really party to whatever the conversations were between my little child self and my mom. But I felt that they were having a great conversation. I could feel the love and forgiveness passing between them. And that's what happened at the end, is that they kissed and loved and hugged, and it was a beautiful experience. And I felt that whatever I had still been holding on to about being unworthy or feeling unworthy, that they had resolved that right there in front of me during my time of meditation. And what happened is right after that, within a few days, my back pain was healed. That my pain was actually associated with these emotions and thoughts that I had been holding on to that I wasn't even aware of. Now, this inner work that we can all do, and I think this is the hard work that we need to do. This releases us from all the guilt and shame and sense of sin that we've been carrying for a very long time. Knowing that we are all equal in God's sight leads us to forgiving all of our brothers and our sisters, all of God's children. And forgiveness is the instrument of love that enables us to overcome any sense of evil forces that are playing out still in our minds, that are trying to separate and control us. And this applies to whoever we think of right now as our enemy. We will see that there's a divine spark of God's light in everybody, and that we just need to see that. And once we see it, we know that we are one, sharing God's life as one big family. I do think it's this individual work of letting go that raises our own consciousness and the collective consciousness of the universe. As we radiate God's love and light that just comes out of us naturally, once we've let go of these things that are blocking it, we won't be easily deceived by any evil thoughts that enter our minds. We can simply observe them and let them go. We know that we are eternally loved, and that changes our perception of the whole world. It's not an accident, I don't think, that Charlie Kirk's organization is called Turning Point. I think we're living in a time when our collective ego is doing all the work it can to separate us into groups in order for it to stay alive. But life now demands our highest self, capital S self. This is a chance for us to have our own turning point. And we train for this highest self to show up during our times of stillness, so that we'll be ready for the obstacles that are going to come our way. As our ego is trying to stay alive, there's going to be a lot more that's going to be thrown at us. And we need to be firm and practiced in knowing that we can laugh at these things, because they're just not actually even there. They are shadows. It's our shadow work, and we're strong enough as we practice, we get ourselves stronger and stronger to be able to just shine the light. It's the light that overcomes the shadows. And as we remember who we really are, we're all the children of God, we will function from love, which always extends beyond our little s self. And then we can honor the pain that we feel for the world and see everything and everybody with new eyes, and go forth to help all of our brothers and sisters in very real and practical ways. I hope this helps you to just be able to know that there is a way out, no matter what it is that you're facing, and you can do it. You are powerful. You share God's life. There's nothing too hard for you. God bless you. I love you so much. If you haven't subscribed, I'd love it if you would, and leave me a comment. I hope you enjoy the rest of your evening. Bye-bye.